You guys know how we always bitch about there never being a really good video game movie adaptation?
Well, yeah. Because there isn't.
Anyway, Mortal Kombat was alright. Mortal Kombat was alright for being a supernatural Enter the Dragon clone.
Okay, yeah, okay, you have a point.
And despite what you two think, I still kind of enjoy some of the visual aspects of the first Silent Hill movie. Fuck off.
The first Resident Evil movie was alright. That's the one I could tolerate.
Well, the animated Resident Evil movies are really the true adaptation of the games. If you want a full actual Resident Evil movie experience, I'd say check out the animated one.
If you want to recover, watch that. I have yet to recover myself, so I think I better get on it.
Well, if you want to speed up your recovery, check out Castlevania on Netflix.
I did.
Ooh, like we didn't set this one up early.
Ooh. Sorry.
Loaded questions.
Just kind of wormed that one in there, huh? Very, very casual-like.
Very nonchalant.
We're very subtle.
Yes. But no, actually, God, coming from a guy who usually detests anime, I was surprised how good it was. And I was extremely shocked by the fact that it actually followed loosely the plotline of the very first video game I ever owned, Castlevania III: Dracula's Curse.
Now, I have actually never played Castlevania before.
Really? None of them. Not even Symphony of the Night.
Why is she here?
I've never played the Castlevania games, but I do know roughly some bits and pieces about them. Especially the Belmonts had been fighting monsters for generations and were excommunicated from the church.
It's kind of hinted here and there, especially in the beginning of Castlevania III. It said that the Belmonts were actually feared by the people, because they were on the supernatural side, you know.
They dabbled in the dark arts to beat monsters.
Yeah, so the Belmont clan really wasn't trusted by the people, so.
Yeah.
When it was brought up that they were excommunicated, it's like, okay, that makes more sense.
The first episode of this Castlevania series was pretty fucking awesome. And awesome in the awe kind of way, you know. Really interesting way to kind of set up Dracula and giving him a reason to hate the people who did what he did.
Yeah, it actually gives him a proper motivation other than, oh, I'm evil.
Yeah, exactly. I hate the fucking mustache twirler. And here you actually give Dracula something that gives him a lot of depth, and it's actually pulled quite heavily from the Symphony of the Night. So somewhere in the official Castlevania canon, this exists.
Yes.
Which is great.
I would agree. I thought the first episode was really good. And again, like Matt, I don't really like anime unless it's by Miyazaki.
Picky.
No, seriously, I just, as soon as I see those things, the big eyes.
They're called tentacles.
The big anime eyes.
As soon as I see the big eyes and the flashing images and the, oh, Mikidama-san! Like,
the epilepsy. The epileptic seizures.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, you need to get that out of my face, right?
Yeah, believe me. I mean, I know what you're talking about, like the original Pokemon animated series and some other genuinely absurd shit that... I mean, I like my Ghost in the Shell, I like Hellsing, that kind of stuff. I like Castlevania. But there's a lot of stuff out there that just absolutely just rubs me the wrong way. Something's lost in translation.
Yeah, anything Miyazaki is great. I haven't seen Ghost in the Shell, so I can't really comment on that. But in general, I don't really like
Blasphemer.
anime.
Again, why is she here?
But the first episode of this was really good. I thought it was really dark, which I really liked. And I just loved the visuals. Again, which is weird coming from me because, again, I don't like anime, but I really like the visuals in this. They were really...
You can still appreciate the animation,
yeah,
even though it's anime. But here, this anime, I don't think it's necessarily... I think it's a very, very Americanized anime, just by the way the characters are developed.
Oh, indeed.
I was going to point out, you can tell that this is Americanized because they almost try to make it very similar to Game of Thrones in a lot of ways. Like the main Belmont character, Trevor Belmont, he looks like Jon Snow.
Jon Snow, if he were, fighting demons for hundreds of years, for generations, and his family was excommunicated from the church.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I did like the first episode. And then afterwards, I wasn't too enthusiastic about the main character. I don't know, there's something about him rubbed me up the wrong way. I think it's mostly the voice actor, because he sounded like Jack Sparrow. Like he was putting no effort into it. And again, we watched the English version, which I know is a sin amongst weeboos, but...
Don't worry, you're not among weeaboos here. You're among friends.
I don't know if that's fixed in the actual proper Japanese version, but the English voice actor, it was like he was putting no effort in at all.
Well, the thing is that Trevor, he's not like a bold, noble, lighthearted kind of guy. He's just kind of there, He really doesn't. Well, he doesn't like what he does, but since he's a part of the Belmont clan, he has to.
Well, yeah, I mean, if your family hunted vampires and monsters for generations and you were excommunicated by the church, you'd have probably the same demeanor.
Yeah, it's like, okay, whatever.
But it'd be nice if he emoted something other than just boredom.
Like when he's eating the dried sheep meat. He's just walking around with it just falling out of his mouth.
He's like, whatever.
You can tell that the script writers were like, okay, we need to make every line he says sound badass. And it's like,
Well, it's not badass. It's just like he has no enthusiasm. It's like going to a job you don't like. And you can't quit. That's what Trevor's...
It's a job where your family's been, hunting monsters for generations and you've been excommunicated by the church.
yes.
Something like that. So, hard knock life.
Yeah.
And that whole excommunication thing and like the Belmonts fighting family for generations, that was brought up in the second episode by a nice little cameo from Alex Jones.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
I don't. Well, you figure that like Trevor Belmont, he's like looked up to, in the previous Castlevania series, especially Simon Belmont, who idolized Trevor. But then you look at this guy, it's like, what is there to idolize? He doesn't really care,
That's where the character arc's going to happen. That's
Yeah.
where you're going to have this character who's just kind of a show up, kind of forced into this thing where his family's been fighting monsters for generations and he's been excommunicated by the church. And then he's going to have that hero journey where he's going to, assemble his friends and then go off and try to fight a big bad
friends.
and turn out, I'm guessing the big bad's going to turn out to be not such a bad guy, and then so on and so forth. But
you can't have Trevor's sign be like all humble and all knowing and wise and stay that way throughout the rest of the series. You gotta have.
it'd be really boring if that happened that way.
So you gotta have the character at his lowest and then try to build him up from there.
Yep, exactly.
Let him see the purpose of his family's heritage and whatnot. Well, not heritage, but.
I do think though that if this character is going to have an arc, then this first series really should have been longer, because I feel like there needs to be at least some progression of his character in a series.
The story itself is of Dracula's Curse, the third Castlevania NES game. This is a very, very loose take on it, because obviously it's missing a pretty important character, Grand Dynasty. Or maybe he is in the series, but I am just taking a little bit of conjecture here. But it's a very, very loose adaptation of kind of like the first half of the game, where you meet Alucard and then just kind of fuck right off. I can understand Netflix kind of taking this very, very carefully by only releasing like 4 episodes, just kind of test the waters with what they're doing. And if it turns out it's all right, then they're like, okay, we'll make more of these. And that's exactly what happened. Is they already got approved for 8 more episodes in season 2. Woo! So we're getting twice as much next year, or a year after that, or whenever the fuck it's coming out.
Hopefully soon, because I'm a huge fan of the Belmont clan, so. But it's funny, I didn't know this was coming out until I was scrolling through Tumblr the other day, and I was looking at the tags, and I saw one of Castlevania, and I saw this little animated GIF, and I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, no, that's another thing as well. I don't think I've seen any advertising for this. I think unless you were looking for it, I don't think you would have seen it anywhere.
No.
This kind of snuck up on me because Llama Pockets, who is a friend of mine who usually has his ear to the ground on these kinds of things, was like, "Oh, dude, are you gonna watch the Castlevania anime?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What? What's going on?"
Excuse me?
And the more I read about what was going on, is this is apparently a project that's just been in development hell since almost like 2009 or something. I have to double check the date.
Yeah, actually they were thinking about making a movie at first, or something like that. They were talking about making a Castlevania movie, and then everything just went quiet, so...
Well, yeah, have you seen all the video game to movie transitions? Of course they were going to look at Castlevania and be like, yeah, you know what? We're probably not going to do this.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing too. I feel that a lot of, especially video games, would benefit from, if they were going to be adapted onto screen, it would be better if it was a series rather than a movie. Because games rarely last, 2 hours, however long a running time of a movie is. A series, you can actually have all the intricate bits and have extra bits if you need to explain stuff, and I think a series would be a much better way to go.
Yes.
Well, and if you have a platform that's more apt to give you creative freedom, I mean, obviously, the movie industry's hurting right now. They won't spend like $50 million on a movie necessarily in the hopes that maybe it's a hit. I mean, just look at Deadpool.
Yeah.
Deadpool is a perfect fucking example of them being like, you know what, this kind of dicey area, and we don't know if we really want to take the chance, so we're going to give you a super low budget. Whereas Netflix has been doing some really awesome stuff lately, really, really adventurous and edgy stuff, besides Dear White People. They did like F is for Family, the Bill Burr series. They did Stranger Things. They have all the Marvel stuff. They fucking remade Voltron, for God's sakes, and they even made Bill Nye Saves the World. Regardless of what you think about any of these properties, Netflix is at least giving creators the chance to create something new.
And it's better too because it creates a meritocracy. Netflix aren't going to keep funding projects that nobody's watching, so therefore your show has to be good to succeed.
like Sony kept funding Adam Sandler movies, and now Netflix is funding Adam Sandler movies. Brilliant.
Well, stupid people will always exist, so what are you going to do?
Right, but still, the fact that like they gave Adi Shankar a chance to make not only a fucking series about Castlevania, but an animated series no less. The ability for these types of new shows to be made is fantastic if you're a consumer. And to see Castlevania III, the very first game I ever owned back in, 1988, is just staggering. To be a 30-year-old guy, sit on the couch, turn on a Castlevania anime, and then come to the slow realization that I'm watching a series, a very decent series, based on the video game that was one of the very first games I ever played.
Mm-hmm. See, at least you had a good childhood freaking memory of one of your favorite games that you grew up with. You know, that I understand you still have, right?
Yes, I still own it.
Yeah, me, I had a terrible experience because I had Castlevania II, Simon's Quest, and as of today, Simon Belmont is still my all-time favorite. But back in the 80s, Captain N came on, and of course that tacky-ass bitch, their version of Simon Belmont came on, and I was both furious and I was furious and traumatized. I ran out of the room, grabbed up my copy of Simon's Quest, curled up in a corner, and cried. I am not joking. I literally did that because I was so disappointed of how they destroyed my favorite character, you know?
And here, almost 25 years later, they brought one of my favorite characters to life in a glorious new way. Sorry, Mel. I'm sorry that you had to have your childhood completely raped out from underneath you by the big
and
Nintendo
such a
craze
young
of the 80s. It at least feels like the winds are changing, where you had these really, really shitty movies, and all of a sudden here's something that's a little bit more close to the source, created by somebody who obviously cares about the original source material and is given the creative freedom to make something that doesn't feel like a cookie cutter movie like, say, Silent Hill Revelations. Oh, there's got to be a love interest.
Don't.
We have to make Vincent a 20-something-year-old and make him be played by Kit Harington.
Was that an orgasm, Mel?
No, that was me freaking making my own news here.
When I first saw the movie, I didn't know fuck all about Silent Hill 3, so I just kind of sat there going, man, this game must suck. And that's the worst part. That's the worst thing you can do with an IP about a video game.
Yes.
The movie destroys the visionary of the video game. That it makes people not want to play it. Exactly.
It makes people be like, wow, this game must suck. Because I always thought, like, man, the Resident Evil games must just suck nuts if the movies are this bad. You know how, like, even this Castlevania is kind of dark and gritty compared to the, skeletons and witches and mummies and shit of the video games.
Yeah.
Would the original Mario Brothers movie have a better chance than today?
It's a gritty remake.
Exactly, a gritty remake. It'd be, like, all dark and edgy and...
Get it directed by Zack Schneider.
Jesus, do you shroom?
No, but I honestly feel like the thing that this series got right is that the creator, again, like you said, actually had a love and a passion for the series. It wasn't like, oh, Resident Evil sold a lot of copies, let's make a movie.
Yeah. It was someone who actually adored and understood the series and wanted to make something more of it.
Exactly. And the fact that these organizations, the successful ones, Netflix specifically, are giving more people more chances to make adaptations of things that, again, they want to see but don't exist.
Yeah.
Can we talk about, like, two characters in particular, actually? Actually, can we talk more just about the characters in general? Because, like, I have a lot to say.
I want to talk about Alucard, how everyone's, like, freaking comparing him to freaking... Who am I thinking about? Oh, Sephiroth! They were comparing him to Sephiroth. I just couldn't see it.
He looks like Swissgar except with a perm.
He looks like Gwyneth Paltrow.
Jesus Christ. With bigger boobs.
Let's not forget that little not so gay scene at the end of the fight.
Oh, you mean
God.
when they're sword fighting?
Yeah.
I love how, like, halfway through the series, the female character busts out her ice powers, and you're like, wow, that could have been useful when you were fighting the Cyclops.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
the
it was-
Cyclops with the Medusa powers.
Well, the thing is that she didn't see the Cyclops, though. She just got hit out of nowhere, hence why
How
she...
could you not see that fucking thing?
Well, she was walking, and then it's like, bam, she's like, whoa, what the hell happened? He's like, oh, it was a Cyclops.
Oh yeah. We're gonna have you draw this, Mel. Sypha just kind of walking along with her nose in the book, and all of a sudden she just runs right into the Cyclops, and it's like, oh, that's a thing. Maybe I should have been paying attention.
Put down your damn book, woman. Women shouldn't even be reading in the first place.
That's like something out of like Cloverfield, where you turn the corner and there's this gigantic 60-foot monster, and you're like, oh, I didn't see that.
No, it's like the ending of Jurassic Park, where the T-Rex, like, sneaks up behind
It just
everyone.
comes out of nowhere.
It's like, oh, okay. It's stealth.
Can we talk about Dracula? Because at first, Matt, you said that he was.
Oh,
wow,
God.
He looks kind of goofy, but I actually thought he was.
No,
alright.
I thought he looked like shit because there's this one exact scene where his mouth and his teeth just look so fucking bad in the mustache combination. I was like, oh god, this is gonna suck.
But it got better, though.
No, it got great. Don't get me wrong, it got great though. But that
Yeah.
first little bit in the beginning, I was like, oh no.
I just liked how the night before we watched this, we watched Van Helsing, the Hugh Jackman movie, and
Yes.
and no, the Dracula in that film is like one of my favorite interpretations of Dracula. I thought he was
Yeah.
great in it.
So, would you like me to refresh your memory a little? A few details from your sordid past. Perhaps that is a conversation for another time.
That Dracula is perfectly fine in that movie. The rest of the movie, on the other hand,
Yeah, the Dracula
it's-
part's the best part of that movie.
the rest of the movie sounds like the Count off Sesame Street. 1, 2, 3. It's like, oh, those bad like Transylvanian stereotype accents. It's so bad.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I was comparing the two performances because again I just watched it the night before, and I feel like obviously because it's the same character there's a lot of similarities between them, but I thought it was kind of weird how they decided not to go with the accent in the series.
Good, because it'd be distracting. I think. I mean,
Yeah, it would.
just like it was in Van Helsing. Now, enough about the characters. We need to discuss more about the fact that we haven't really flushed out Trevor Belmont's his purpose, his story arc. I mean, do they ever mention in the show that he comes from a family of like monster hunters and the family was excommunicated from the church?
I don't think. I don't know. Do they? I must have missed
I mean,
it.
I think it was mentioned once or twice.
I must have gone to the bathroom at that part. I must have gone to the bathroom several times throughout the series.
Damn, woman, what did you drink?
Also, can we just talk briefly about how whips suck?
Yes, whips are such a bad fucking weapon.
Is this like a part of the joke, or are you guys serious?
No, I mean, granted, the whip is a mainstay in Castlevania, but practically, if you're going to be fighting monsters, I think a whip would probably be one of the last things you do. Because have you guys ever seen that movie, Underworld, where the vampires versus the werewolf lichen things? Remember that one scene where the guy had 2 whips, and he still got mauled to death by a fucking werewolf.
Well, because he's not a Belmont, he didn't know how to use it properly.
Well,
His family, Matt, had not been fighting monsters for generations, and they had not been excommunicated from the church.
But it's have you guys seen that Robot Chicken skit of Castlevania where like he's going around whipping
Yeah.
things and there's like a werewolf
whip.
and he gets whipped and he's like, ow, god damn, that hurt. What the hell are you hitting me with a whip for? And he gets whipped against, ow, wow, okay, fine. I'll take you to Dracula. And he just walks the guy all the way to Dracula and he's like, God, this guy won't stop whipping me.
I think it's a fetish.
I don't know, unless it's because Indiana Jones and the new Kingsman movie even looks like they're using it like kind of ironically, not like serious. So it kind of works in that aspect, but when you're using it as a serious weapon, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, serious weapon like the Ghostbusters 2016 movie, right?
Do not.
That's a...
Do not. We're talking about something good, not something shitty.
I know, but again, this is a very good video game adaptation, very worth the watch. Especially if you've ever had an ounce of love for Castlevania, and especially Dracula's Curse.
Overall, I really like this series, but I will say that the quality kind of dips after the first episode. The first episode is the best one.
Oh yeah, no doubt. They had the best visuals, had the best spectacular scenes, and then when we get to, I guess, Jon Snow from Game of Thrones crossed with Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. I lost quite a bit of interest in the second episode, but then it gradually built back up to being like, oh, okay, I can see where this is going. This is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, the first episode was like, what was it? The building block of how everything goes into place. And then afterwards, everything's torn back down and you got to build back up again.
Yep. It was one hell of a hook.
And I will say, this series needed more Dracula.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I imagine that's going to come, especially when they start explaining the fact that, the Belmonts have been fighting monsters for generations, and they've been excommunicated by the church.
Wait, were they?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, you saw that short little piece about the entire like religious angle of this entire thing, where it's like organized religion and the atrocities that they've committed in the name of God, and who's really the actual monster.
Definitely. It's like you're watching like various different kinds of beliefs clashing against one another instead of fighting the actual problem, Instead they're just pointing fingers at each other, which is really close to home because we're getting that today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just shows that most religions are just disgusting. And on that note, Mel would like to talk to you about the Book of Mormon.
Have you heard about our Lord and Savior, Joseph Smith? No, I'm not going to do that to you guys. Sorry.
Yeah, usually the Mormons, weren't they like kind of like the ones who are kind of like the Cyphers crew, the ones who are always getting kicked out and abused and...
Yeah, because back then they were practicing polygamy.
Oh.
They were treated like that one Rick in Rick and Morty who's like the doofus Rick.
Yeah.
Anyways, to get off the religious angle, it's worth a watch. Definitely a lot of gray lines as far as morality, and the main character kind of not all that interesting right now, but I guess he starts to grow towards the end, and excellent first episode, hands down.
Yes.
So I'm ecstatic to see that more companies like Netflix are taking chances on IPs like these with creators like Adi Shankar.
Well, if I can have a say here, I just really like how they're making an adaptation off of a game that really doesn't tell much of a story in the first place, considering it was an NES game. Mm-hmm. It did have subtitles here and there when you encountered your friends, quote unquote. So it was, I don't know, I thought it was a good idea where it took this game where it didn't have much, and then they turned it into something more.
Right.
That's quite sneaky, though, because it means you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you got people making adaptations of things that already have a full story that people already know about, that's already been annotated before in its purest form, and then just reversing it. Hence
Cough, Resident Evil, cough.
Cough, Silent Hill. Sorry, I coughed up some blood there. Anyway, but yeah, you guys do know what I'm trying to get at there. Because they're trying to retell something that's already been told. And it's not even that great. While with this, with something that hasn't been told clearly, we now have a better visual of what's going on, in a sense.
Yeah. Again, Adi Shankar said that, I just kind of try to make whatever I want to see, but it doesn't exist.
Yes.
And I think that's the mark of a creator, is to take something that's very, very vague, like Castlevania, like you said, and build something interesting out of it.
Petition to make an anime of Crash Bandicoot.
Oh gosh.
I guess here's a question. Does Crash Bandicoot's family, have they been fighting monsters for generations and have been excommunicated by the church? Otherwise, I don't care.
Jeez. You guys are dorks.
This is what it means when we swing on your brother.